We're talking about the things that Jesus said that we never want to forget. Have you ever been in a situation where you feel like you just can't be honest? Maybe your friend has a horrible new fashion choice, but you can't tell them how bad they look because you know it'll hurt their feelings. Or maybe your mom asks you, do I look fat in this? Sometimes we feel like we just can't be honest, or maybe we got hit really hard in practice and we're hurt, but we don't want to show it. Talking about how we really feel is hard, and sometimes we don't want others to know exactly how we feel. We all know what it's like to hide how we feel. Sometimes we don't know what we're feeling, we don't want to make a big deal out of our feelings, or we're just scared someone might judge us because of the way that we feel. We can hide our feelings from others, we can hide them from God too. Maybe you've hidden your feelings from God because you have questions about your faith, but you think you shouldn't feel this way because of things other Christians have told you. You think maybe God doesn't care about how you feel and that you just have to deal with God's rules. Maybe you aren't sure if you believe in God, so telling God your feelings won't make a difference. Maybe you've even gone through something difficult and it can be hard to talk about or think about. Instead of being honest with our feelings, we sometimes choose to hide them or pretend that everything's okay, that we're just fine. Eventually our feelings will show up, and that may cause us to get angry, depressed, or even feel sick. There has to be a better way to deal with how we feel. Well, in Jesus' time, there was a guy named Luke, confirmed and wrote down real accounts about Jesus. Jesus had an experience that has a lot to do with how we can share our feelings with God. In his last moments here on earth, Jesus knew that his arrest, crucifixion, death, and resurrection were on their way. This is what we celebrate today as Easter. Jesus was perfect, but he had real feelings about what was going to happen to him. And he said this, "Father, if you're willing, please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine." Instead of hiding how he felt, he chose to be honest with God. Jesus prayed that God would allow something else to happen so that he wouldn't have to suffer the way that he did. Luke wrote that Jesus prayed more fervently, and he was in such agony of spirit that his sweat fell on the ground. Not only did Jesus ask God to change what was about to happen, he desperately prayed and shared his feelings with God in agony. In this difficult moment, Jesus got real about how he felt. He trusted God enough to be honest. Honesty in prayer didn't mean that Jesus wouldn't follow God to the cross. It didn't change what happened for Jesus. He was still arrested, put on the cross, died, and rose again. While it didn't change his circumstances, Jesus trusted God and knew he could confidently and honestly walk through this difficult time with God. Part of trusting God is being honest with God. Trusting God doesn't mean trusting that things will go the way that we want them to go. It means that we believe no matter what happens, that God will be with us every step of the way. We can trust God because God promises to always be working for good, even in really hard things. So, what does this mean for you and for me? Well, I think it means that we follow Jesus' example in prayer by doing two things. First, be real with God. Just like we would be honest with a trusted friend or a loved one, we can be honest with God if we're mad, if we're sad, if we don't understand. We can tell him. We can trust God with anything that we feel. And second, choose to believe God is with you no matter what. We can't just be honest and stop there. Just like Jesus, we have to be willing to trust and follow. And even if our circumstances don't change or things don't go the way that we want them to, we can still trust God because God is good. He is working for good, and He loves us no matter what. Remember, part of trusting God is being honest with Him.